Another common type of paragraph formatting we often see involves the use of tabs and indents. And that's what we're going to talk about now as we continue working with our No Obstacles HR document. If you're jumping to this lesson, you'd like to get caught up, you can open up No Obstacles HR 5 in the Chapter 4 folder of those exercise files. We're actually going to move up to page 2. We've seen this before. This is our customary letter that appears at the beginning of our document, and you'll notice we have several paragraphs here. Well, there is a type of formatting that involves indenting the first line of a paragraph. Now, in the old days, we just click at the beginning, hit the tab key on the keyboard, and that would insert a tab. Now, what happens here in Word is a little bit different. You'll notice, first of all, autocorrect is kicking in, and something's happening here. If we click the drop-down, we have the option to change it back to a tab, but that's what we hit. So what's really happening? To see what's happening, it's ideal to turn on a feature called the ruler. So let's first click Undo. Next, we'll go to the View tab. And over here in the Show section, we'll click the checkbox next to Ruler. That gives us a ruler across the top and down the left-hand side. So it gives us a great idea where we are on the page for one, but there are some little symbols here that are going to help us. First of all, in the top left corner, we see that little L symbol. That represents a left tab. So we can set left tabs wherever we want on this ruler. You can see by default, there aren't any tab stops at all. But we do have these little guys right here. And each one of them, as we hover over them, says something different. The top one, which is a triangle pointing down, represents a first line indent. In other words, only the first line of a paragraph will be indented to the spot on the ruler where we drag that to. So if we want the first line of this paragraph, we'll click anywhere in the paragraph and then move this slider over to about 1/2 inch. You'll notice it's only the first line that's indenting. All right, let's click Undo. The next little icon below it, the triangle pointing up, represents a hanging indent, and it's really just the opposite. The first line of a paragraph stays put, and the rest of the paragraph will be indented. Let's move it 1/2 inch over. You can see what's happening. That's a totally different effect that wouldn't apply to straight text like we have here in our customer letter. So let's drag it back. And then down at the bottom is something called a left indent, and that's going to indent the entire paragraph, the first line and every line. Let's drag it across 1/2 inch. And you can see sometimes that comes in handy when you want to center out something in a paragraph. For example, you have a page full of information. Maybe there's a quote, and you want to indent the entire paragraph quote into the center of your page to draw attention to it. Just drag that back to the left margin. Now back to those tab stops. And remember, when we hit the tab key on our keyboard, what happened? Let's click in front of the word thank and hit that tab key again. The autocorrect kicks in because what's actually happening is not a tab stop, but a first line indent is being set for us automatically. So if we click this little drop down, we can change it back to a tab. And when we do that, you'll notice the first line indent is no longer set, but the first line of my paragraph is indented because we hit the tab key. Let's hit the backspace key to take that out. Another option is to choose exactly where that left tab's going to go. Left tab is the symbol that appears at the top of our vertical ruler, but if you click that, you'll see it's changed now to a center. Click it again, it's a right tab. You can just hover over that until the little pop-up shows you that it's a right tab. And there's some other options here. Click again. If you've ever heard of a decimal tab when working with numbers that you need lined up on the decimal, numbers go to the left till you hit the decimal, then they go to the right. Click again. This little guy straight up and down is a bar tab. Then we see the symbol for our first line indent. Click again, there's our hanging indent. Click again, and we're all the way back to a left tab. So with that showing, left tab, we can click anywhere on the ruler to set one. Let's say we didn't want it at 1/2 inch, the default. Maybe we want it a little bit further. So let's go to about 3/4 of the way across. We'll just click on the ruler, and you'll notice a left tab stop is set for you. That means now, with our cursor flashing in front of the word thank, when we hit the tab key, it's actually going to go to that spot. It's not going to set an indent for us because we have the tab stop there. And we can set as many of these as we want it. Think about setting up almost like a columns kind of layout where you might have in column 1 a quantity, in column 2 a description, and in column 3 a price. And you want them lined up perfectly. You could use 3 different types of tab stops on your ruler, and everything would line up every time you hit the tab key. So that's a quick introduction to tab stops and indents. It does add a bit of a different look to your paragraphs. If we go down to this second paragraph and press our Tab key, it's going to use, as you can see, the default here, that hanging indent. So when we set these things, it's a good idea to set it for the entire document or the entire page. Let's click Undo, undo again, and this time we'll select the entire content of our second page here, our letter. And now with left tab selected, we'll go to 3/4 of an inch. With that set, now we can hit Tab all we want. And that's exactly where our paragraph will be indented to. So a little something to experiment with when you want to change the look of your paragraphs here in Word using tab stops or indents.